Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome to Heart Health. So, we are here to bring that awareness towards your heart. Do you know that in today's scenario, due to the lifestyles or the dietary measures or the stress, what is our heart health? And it's a shocking actually revelations that our heart is not as young as we think it is. We all hear the saying like young at heart, but the rate as which the heart is getting older, our heart is getting nearly 7 years older than our physical age, and this is as of now today. So what happens when the heart is aged more or older than our physical age? The thing is, when heart is more aged or is older than our physical age, we have a lot of risk factors. We are prone for strokes, cardiac arrests, or CADs like coronary artery diseases. So what are these risks which is affecting our heart, and what will happen to it?
Hello everyone, good evening. And when we are talking about the risk factors, so there are certain risk factors which we really have a very less control on them. For example, age. As we grow older, the heart tends to get weaker, and this is also one of the uncontrollable cause or the risk factor. And similarly, the age. The younger men have more affinity to get the heart diseases quite early in their age compared to the older women. And also some of the changes like hereditary causes also comes under the uncontrollable risk factors. And there are a very big list of controllable risk factors like the diet, of course, and we always say that the 3 R's: the refined sugar, refined flour, and the refined oils. These are all the three major impact foods which affect the heart health. Along with that, the stress and the physical inactivity, which is also very much rampant in nowadays society, and also the some existing health issues like metabolic syndrome. When we say metabolic syndrome, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol diseases, and some other hormonal imbalances in the female, especially with like PCOS and insulin resistance. So these are all, the list goes on actually. So these also have an impact on the heart health, and definitely where we can work more to get our heart much in a better shape and also keep our heart young.
See, heart health, like we have to begin taking care of our heart at a very early age. It's very important. Heart health is quite important at any age. Maybe it's 20s, early teenage, or 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's kind of a lifelong thing. In our practice, we do see late teenagers like 17, 18, 19 or early 20s. Kids are getting high blood pressure, imbalanced or dyslipidemia, that is irregular cholesterols. Some people even have pre-diabetic or diabetic condition, which was a rare case. If you see 10 years before, this never used to happen. And the people who were in the 20s, they were like roaring to rule the world. But today, if we see, most of the kids are having the problems with high blood pressure or palpitations. These are the leading factors which make us think where we are going wrong, and from when we need to start or begin taking care of our heart.
Well, any age, heart health matters at any age. That's what we are talking about, right? The first thing what we would like to really share is that when you are in your 20s and 30s, that's the time where you really pay attention to taking your heart health to a much better way, and that's the foundation time. In your 20s and 30s, you lay foundation to your better heart health, and this is where most of us miss the train, right? So we take things granted and we leave the erratic lifestyle, and we go with the wrong choices of food and nutrition and lack of exercises, so which costs us too much in our elderly ages. So in 20s and 30s you build your heart muscles, you build your heart strength with the right proper nutrition, diet and physical activity. And once you are in your 40s, so what you will do is to keep a check on your parameters, like the health metrics, like your numbers of lipids, how your lipid profile is showing up, and how is your other metabolic age or metabolic activities are showing up in your day-to-day life, and how is your stress levels. So all the cortisol levels and blood pressure, of course, we always keep monitoring all these numbers, and mainly the BMI, body mass index. And more than BMI, what is more significant is your the waist to hip ratio. So the accumulated fat around our abdomen, or the superficial fat where we really carry those the pear shape obesity, or the central obesity, all these things. So which are the things we have to keep a check on to see where and how we can really improve, and what are the corrections to be taken. And this is the kind of observatory period. Once you are in your 50s and 60s, you have to gear up. You have to gear up to have much more better, very individualized approach to take care of your heart health. Meet your family physician or your doctor to keep a regular check, and also how you can improve with your physical activities and the food choices and the diet and other regulations. Of course, not to forget the mental health. So by in all decades of our life, so we can literally pay attention to keep your heart health into a optimum stage.
See, as a woman, I can tell you that it's little different than in men. Women, when we are in our prime reproductive age, that you can say from the menarche to perimenopausal or to menopausal, we have abundance of estrogen. So what happens when we have this hormone estrogen? We don't actually build up the cholesterol in our body. So the ratio less likely to build up the cholesterol in the body. We are actually protected by that, our hormone. And secondly, what happens is our heart muscles are much stronger, arteries are more flexible and elastic. But what happens to a woman when she reaches a perimenopausal? Perimenopausal is a stage when you're reaching towards the menopause. See, in usually 50 or late 40s is the normal menopausal age. But in today's scenario, women are reaching early menopause. They are reaching in early 40s the menopause. So they tend to have high risk for this cardiovascular diseases or the heart related diseases. You can see, like when I consult ladies in their early 40s or mid 40s, even say late 40s, what happened to these women is the first thing is their cholesterol buildup really goes high. That is low LDL. LDL is low density lipoprotein, which has a tendency to form a plaque. Plaque is depositing quality of the cholesterol. We can sum it up as a bad cholesterol. So this tends to increase when we reach this perimenopausal or menopausal stage. And HDL is a good cholesterol which tends to become lower. So here we need to work on our HDL, increase our HDL. We'll come back to that, like how do you improve that with your diet and exercise. And when the women reaches the perimenopausal and the menopausal stage, what happens to the women is they increase the abdominal girth, what we call as menobelly. So the metabolic rate in them is decreasing. The way they used to digest food is completely abnormal, erratic. We need to look after that. We need to take care of that. We need to find a balance in our hormones for that. And when they get the hot flushes in their menopause, they do tend to have the palpitations. That is, the heart rate is too high, it's beating, it's thumping, it's called the flutter. That is okay. In most of the cases, it's harmless. You just need to calm down, take a breather, wash your face with cold water, do some physical activity. It really releases your palpitations. And women has to take care of their heart when the estrogen deficiency starts. We do have herbs like shatavari, ashwagandha, which help in this balancing of the hormones when we reach perimenopausal or menopausal state. So you need a proper guidance, and we will be coming towards the dietary recommendations, what has to be taken care when we are in that state.
So generally, I mean, you mean to say what are the prescription for the better heart?
What is the prescription for the younger heart? See, we all want to be young at heart. So I keep on saying like, I'll die young at heart. Sorry, it's the mic. So what is the prescription for this younger heart?
So as the doctor was telling that, the biggest culprit is the accumulated fat. I mean, say it in men or even in the female. And there is one point we have to really pay attention is that waist to hip ratio. So this is very significant in maintaining your metabolic health, heart health, and even your emotional health for that instance. So what do we mean by waist hip ratio? So you have to take a measurement of your waist, and you have to divide that measurement by the measurement of your hip. So that will give you a certain number. So this ratio should not cross 0.9 in men and 0.85 in women. So this is the ideal number which we have to really keep it in ourselves. And to put it in a very simple way, I think men don't let your waist size to grow more than 38 to 40, and for women it has to come down a little more, like 36 to 38. So this should be your ideal goal to keep yourself fit and also keep your heart in a young situation. And also there are things like when you talk about prescription, what are the prescription for the good heart is always the first one is exercise, because most of us are try to control our diet. We try to work more on diet and less on exercises because we all are lazy, right? So we don't want to exercise, we don't want anything hard earned things, we want everything to be simplified. So we always think that the food or the diet is the easy choice, but the other way around, the best thing is to burn. You have to burn the calories, burn your accumulated fat, and that goes into your first prescription. That means your exercises like swimming, cycling, the brisk walk and abdominal crunches. We'll come to in detail about what can be done, and these are all the simple prescriptions for your young heart.
See, for the people who are older, when we are saying exercising, there are some people who can't do a lot of exercises, but they need exercising. Like people who are above 60, they feel there is a pain in their knees or back pain. There'll be some or the other reason where they can't be so physically active. But for them also, it is advised to go for at least 10 to 20 minutes of walk. Take a break in between, but do walk, because that kind of a physical activity helps your heart health to boost it. Second thing what they can do is, what will happen when we start aging is our lean muscle mass, the bulk of the muscles starts reducing. That's not a good sign. So we need to be careful in weight loss also, that we need to lose the fat, not the muscles. So if we are losing the muscles, we tend to grow weaker and we start looking sick. That's not the healthy way of doing it. You need to have that glow on your face, and then yes, that muscle mass and bone health, that's the healthy way of doing it. So for that reason, if people are old, so what they can do is they can go for a lifts, like they can take a heavy book, say do 3 lift of the heavy book, or say 1 liter water bottle or 1.5 liter water bottle, whichever is okay with them. They can do 2 to 3 lifts each arm, or this is how you build the what we say muscle mass. And breathing, the most important thing is breathing, and as you know, we usually tend to go for the shallow breaths, and the emotions are high. When the emotions run high, the breath gets shallower and shallower. So it's better to have that long deep breaths, a period of periodic long deep breaths in the day, which will help your lungs as well as your cardiac health. And remember, they are all neighbors in your body. The lungs, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, everything, they stick very close by. So we need to take care of all the organs to take care of our heart.
So when it comes to the food, I think I mean, we all want to hear what are the
Yeah, what's the diet? What is that magic thing which we can take and the heart stays healthy and young and we can do everything like climbing the Everest too?
Yeah. So most of us we know that already that the omega 3s are very good for the heart, and the good fats like the olive oils or omega 3 acids which are into the nuts and seeds. So we will pay attention to few more things apart from these things which are more beneficial for the heart. The nitric oxide, this is one of the important source, I mean the things which really help you to keep your heart in a good way. So what are the sources of the good nitric oxides? Are the green leafy vegetables, beetroots, kale and broccolis, and in fact the things like some part of the fresh fruits, vegetables, they all provide you this nitric oxide. What basically nitric oxide does is it increases the vascularity of the vessel. That means it improves the dilatation of your blood vessels so that your blood pressure automatically normals down. It gives a sense of relief to the heart muscle will be strengthened. So this is one of the prime important factor for your heart health. So whenever you choose go green, like going to the vegetarian diet, having the less meat and plant-based protein, and going with a lot of antioxidants like the fresh fruits like pomegranate, and also some herbs like garlic. We all know that garlic is very good for the heart, and the herbs like arjuna is also there, ashwagandha has these withanolides. This is also proven very good in maintaining your heart health and the vessel health. And apart from this, in the right balance of your sodium and potassium in terms of salt, and potassium rich fruits like the bananas are good, avocados are good. They also have an antioxidant property, so that they will take care of your repair of your heart muscles and the walls especially. And along with that, vitamin E, which is also a very good source to keep your heart at young.
Yeah. See, when he's talking about what are all the things you should take, you should be aware, like in today's era, what we are doing and what we should not be doing. That the major culprit over here is the salt. It is everywhere and in everything. So salt contains the mineral is sodium, as you all must be knowing. Sodium, we are consuming a lot of sodium. You will be shocked, like only 12 chips contain around 300 milligrams of sodium. That's a lot. And a slice of pizza, like it really seems harmless for everybody, but it contains around 750 milligrams of sodium. That's a lot. And how much sodium do you think we should take per day? It's not high. It's like 1500 milligrams of sodium for an adult per day. So if I eat a takeaway, like if you say I'm going to a restaurant and I'm taking a takeaway, you know how much sodium it has? 7000 milligrams. So it's gone. Like we just ate the sodium which was meant for say 5 days. We ate it in one meal. That's a lot of sodium which is going on into our diet. And bring some awareness about what you're eating, whatever you're buying. Go for the low sodium things. The most harmless things like salty things which we say they are not that salty is the bread which we buy from the market. It does have like a small slice of bread, whatever we get it in the market, it has around 300 to 400 milligrams, one slice of bread. So if you are having a sandwich, then you just had your whole sodium content for the day. So you need to be aware about what you're buying, because sodium is used as a natural flavors, and it is used as additives, it is used as a preservatives, and plus it is used as a salt. So sodium is there in almost everything. If you go from the toothpaste, shampoos, soaps, to the food whatever we eat, to the cream whatever we put on our body, sodium is there. So we need to be little aware about the sodium. Just learn, because even I am learning. So learning is a process. I think it goes on lifelong. So learn to read the labels whenever you're buying things, especially canned foods or packaged food. Learn to read the labels. and listening to all this and putting so much, like what all we have to think when we are eating, it puts a lot of stress. Does stress have an effect on heart?
Why not? I mean, we all know that. I mean, stress really affects our heart. So, I mean, you see, there is the time where the emotions and the feelings were all pertaining to the heart and the poetic subject, and the science was always believing that the mind or the brain which controls the heart. But until recent time, the studies shows the vice versa. The heart is an independent organ which is capable of having its own physiology and having its own memory, having its own will, in fact, for that matter. And in Ayurveda it is rightly said that there is a two types of hridaya is the where all the transformation happens. That's the place where we call it as hridaya. It's a very dynamic Sanskrit word, and in Ayurveda they have identified two kinds of heart. That means one is called Uro Hridaya. Uro means the chest, where the cardiac is lying right now in the chest cavity, and the Shiro Hridaya, which refers to the hypothalamic activity or your autonomous nervous system. So they have a very strange interconnection, and this is where the complexity of the body, mind and the soul complexity arises. And we need to understand this as we go deeper, so we really just unlayer the vast permutations and combinations of how the body is affecting the mind and the mind is affecting the body, especially the organ heart. Okay, so when we say heart, see, we all have this heart rate, right? So every heartbeat is different from person to person. So do we think that each heartbeat is very singular? So whatever the rate, it is 60, 70 or 80, in between at each beat there is a microseconds of variations. That is called as heart rate variability. Okay, and when it happens in a specific way, it gives rise to a certain rhythm. It's called heart coherence. It's just like a music, a controlled chaos within the stream of line, where each resembles your how you control your emotions. It has a lot of effect on your cognitive skills, like how you perceive things, how your emotions are processed, how your focus is paid attention to certain day-to-day activity. Are you in a present moment? Everything is connected with this the connection of your heart and the brain connectivity. So we have to keep ourselves in a much calmer way, so that the stress affects the lists of our heart, and also the heart affects your mood and emotional well-being as well. So there is a one study showing that 33% of the heart attack patients suffer from depression. I mean these are all the recent discoveries which really boggles the the scientists, like what are all the connections we still have to unreveal to understand the dynamics of the human being. So the first thing is to maintain your emotional well-being. We'll talk about how to de-stress ourselves. I think doctor will go ahead.
Yeah, de-stress yourself. So the first thing is laughter. Laugh out loud, and the best thing to do is you need to find a company to laugh about everything in the life. See, we live in a stressful era, that we have to agree, and we can't run from it, because that's how it is in today's world. So we have to evolve. Evolution is going on, still it's on. So we have to evolve to fit into this kind of a situation what we are in right now. We can't be complaining about it, because that's not going to give you a solution. So how do you evolve? So what I do personally is I try to find things funny which are there in everyday life. Believe me, they are there. It's so laugh out loud about the things which you find funny, and you should have a good company to laughing out. So this is my husband, and I think I laugh at him most of the times. So if my heart is younger, so I should thank him for that. So that's the first thing what you should do, laugh out loud. Second thing, which is very important for all of us, is gratitude, thankfulness. So we are lacking that, and if you see our parents like few years back, and how they used to live with very less facilities, no technology, And I think I remember like they used to meet people. They had a social circle, but the far off family or everybody, it was like once or twice in like few years, and they were content whatever they were there was there they were content, they were thankful for whatever they had in their life. If you look at us today, we have much more wealth than what our parents had.
Also complaints.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We need to be have that gratitude towards whatever we have in our lives. That brings that contentness. Contentness leads to that inner peace and happiness. If you start, like I remember in my childhood, like our teachers used to always tell, count your blessings, count your blessings. So that was like used to bog me what they are telling, like count your blessings. Now literally I bog my child to do that, count your blessings, see what are you grateful for. And there, believe me, there are millions of things which we have to be grateful for in the whole world. So the second thing is gratitude. And what are the rest, Dr. Madhu?
I think you can be a kid. I mean, you enjoy with to be a kid and go back to your childhood and enjoy that. You know, your childlike nature. Don't let that
become old.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then this is how you keep yourself young at heart as well. And also pick up a hobby. Music and the dancing and exercises, walking, and they release most of your endorphins. And not to mention the hugging. I mean, now we have a difficult time, so at least in your family members, for your kids and all, try to have that hugs and physical touch and the human touch, because it releases most of this oxytocin, and that is also very important for your heart health.
Yeah,
and
it's a cuddle hormone,
yeah.
What we call it as cuddle hormone or the love hormone. And believe me, COVID has shown us like how social distancing, actually we need to do the physical distancing. The social distancing has affected us mentally. Like we have raised cases of anxiety, people are feeling depressed, people are feeling isolated, though we might be in different thing, but we mentally feel isolated. It has a kind of effect on our mental health too. So the thing which what we are telling, the physical touch, it can be your loved ones. So that really helps, and it is already proved, like hugging for 20 seconds release abundance of oxytocin. So I call my daughter Oxytocin, so I thought like I'll rename her Oxytocin.
And similarly, the Ayurvedic therapies like Abhyanga, the Marmas, even they also have this, healing touch. Somehow, you really feel accomplished or completely filled up, and you have a lot of gratitude. That's why, the recent studies are showing that their more efficacy is proven every day in dealing with these psychosomatic problems as well as your immunity. Immunity is also brought to a better extent with these therapies like these things. And also, as ultimately exercise. That's what you have to really keep yourself in fit to produce those endorphins and other dopamines and all the necessity neurotransmitter to be under check. So this is how we keep ourselves,
Yeah, if you want to divide, it's like diet, you can say 20%, and physical activity, you have to give 60% to that. And your mental happiness again contributes around 20%. So that's the whole formula for total healthy being, or for your healthy heart. So keep your track on that. Always see what we see in our daily practice is people come to us with the physical activity. They say, oh yes, I walk for half an hour per day, I go 4 days a week for a walk, 5 days a week for walk. That's not your physical activity. That's what I say. See, what we do is we sit a lot, like we sit around 9 to 10 hours if you are in the office, minimal walking, and then you're sitting at home, you sit in a car, everywhere you're just sitting. And the studies, like WHO has told, sitting kills. So I am a ghost because I have a sitting job. Exercise, like what we do is every day 2 hours of walk, little bit of yoga. I'm not saying that it compensates, but it helps you to maintain your health, and mentally you feel so refreshed and rejuvenated. The energies what you have in the morning will be boosting till the evening if you pay attention to exercise. There should not be any excuse for that, and it's free of cost.
Yes, I think we have a few more questions. I think let me take them one by one. I'll read out. I think you can answer the first one.
Yeah.
Can you please tell us if someone has undergone angioplasty, they can be off all the medicines with the just walk or basic exercises and good diet? For example, blood thinners is needed to be taken or not?
It has to be taken. See, you are under the care of cardiologist over here, and if angioplasty, if they have put a stent in you, stent becomes a foreign body in your system. So body, any foreign body, what body does is body wants to throw it out. How does it throw it out? It makes sure you the plenty of RBCs and WBCs are there, and clotting it, the clot formation will be higher when we put these kind of stents. So blood thinners become a necessity when you are undergoing the angioplasty. You need a cardiologist recommendations for these kind of things. But yes, walk does help you to maintain or to stay in that healthy pattern whatever you are right now. So do maintain that.
Okay. What is the best way to reduce cholesterol with your diet? Okay. Well, this is a frequently asked question. One thing we should understand that, when we say cholesterol, our attention always goes to the fat, right? Good fat, bad fat, or good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. We need to understand one important thing, that whatever you eat, your liver can make the fat generation or the glucose generation. So this is your storehouse of energy. So no matter what are the macronutrients you take, say it is a carbohydrate or a protein or a fat, if it is left undigested or left unassimilated, it will be stored as a fat, free fat. So that is what is cholesterol is. Okay, so whenever you see certain parameters in your total cholesterol, especially the triglycerides or LDL are going up, that means there is a serious metabolic impairment is happening. So it's not just cutting your oil, or it's not just cutting your the butter or ghee or something like that. You need to cut down your calorie intake, no matter whatever it is, either it's carb or red meat or heavy proteins. Everything which is non-utilized in the form of energy will be converted to the fat. So the answer to that is basically, you have to cut down your calorie intake, and also try to have more fibrous stuff, like it is also complex carb, we call it, like the boiled vegetables, green leafy vegetables, the greens, whole grains, and the millets and quinoas, and all these things have a good effect on your maintaining your blood cholesterol. And also exercise, it's a very important thing. Again, we're coming back to the same point there. Okay, so next question is for senior citizens having hypertension, what exercises are best? I think you already answered it, but
they have to do very mild exercises. They should not be actually sitting for a long term or lying down for the long term. Simple exercises like 10 minutes walk or 15 minutes walk, just a stroll inside the home also will be beneficial for them. And breathing pattern, they have to concentrate on the breathing pattern. Breathing exercises will be better for them. So they have, like, depending on their health, how much they can do it. So they have to do a little bit of physical movement in the house or outside. Fresh air is what I recommend, but it depends on the person to person, how they are, where they are, how much they can do. But 10 to 15 minutes of walking with the breaks, like morning 15 minutes, evening 15 minutes, something like that would be much helpful for them.
So next question is, what are the good exercises to strengthen our heart or chest muscles? Well, this is a very good question. I think I will brief it according to the age group. We were talking about 20s and 30s, right? This is where you fundamentally build your heart health. So for them, there are a lot of burst training. That means intermittently you raise your heart rate up to 110, 115 and rest for 1 minute, and then again you pump it up your heart rate. that can be done with nitrous oxide burst. There are a lot of things, you can Google it. They will tell you very simple exercises where you will jog, run, walk, swim. Okay, so you basically increase your heart rate so that it will withstand the that capacity. So this is for the, I'm talking about the young people in 20s and 30s. Okay, these are all the trainings which you can do to improve your cardiac training. Also the strength training, strength against using that Swiss ball, and the resistance work with the elastics, and also the cross training. These are all the things which are more rigorous. Abs training, all these things can be done on when you are really young. When you are in the 40s, again the same thing can be done in a very less intensity. Again, you have to really check with your physician whether you are able to do it, or if there is any underlying issues like other health conditions are there, like knee issues or back pain or anything. You have to be careful before you jump into all these exercises. But of course, yoga, brisk yoga, there are a lot of different yogas are there, yoga styles are there, that can also be done. Of course, keep your pranayama, that breathing techniques, which is very, very fundamentally important. And Kapalbhati is there, Ujjayi breathings are there, and Sudarshan Kriya Yoga is there, and meditation also keeps your heart in a very better way, irrespective of the age I'm talking about. And as you grow older, like in 50s and 60s, if you're already having a lot of issues with the heart, at least make sure that you breathe properly. You have an intermittent breathing, that is what you call this Nadi Shodhan, or alternate nostril breathing, Ujjayi breathing, and Kapalbhatis, and all these yoga techniques, breathing long, deeper breathing techniques, along with the
breathing, what we call.
Yes, and also along with the simple walk and the meditation. So these things will definitely improve your heart health. Okay. Okay. I think a very general question, I think should take it. How frequently checkups with cardiology should be done by someone who has undergone angioplasty? What are the basic lab tests they should do, and in what frequency periodically? I think that's the best answer is your cardiologist, correct? I think.
Yeah.
Because once you are already intervened with the cardiologist, you have to be honest with him and keep taking his advice seriously.
Usually they give you a follow-up, 15 days or in a 1 month duration. Depending on the next complete blood checkup, they will advise you what should be taken, what should not be taken. I think they will be the best person to answer this, and like it's a one-on-one, customized, so it's not a general thing. So you can consult your cardiologist for the further queries.
You can take one more. What should I do for my palpitation?
Palpitations, see, there are two kinds. One is the one palpitation usually leads to the high blood pressure. Some of the palpitations are harmless. So we need to categorize what is your thing. And usually when you have a palpitation, it's better to do a cold water wash for your face, because you are calming your vagus nerve stimulation over here. Second thing, get up. And because usually when a person is lying down, the palpitations are higher, so get up and do some physical activity, move around. It will help you reduce your palpitations. We need to go back to the cause for the palpitation and treat it, because if it is in the women, the hormones can be the major cause for that. If it is in the men, there might be different metabolic issues in men, so we need to treat the concerned issues for them.
Maybe serious arrhythmias also, but anyway.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
Okay, I think we'll take a last question for the day, and the last question is, how does my family history affect my heart health? Well, see, as we say that it is an uncontrollable thing, but according to the modern science nowadays, what we are seeing is the epigenetics. So the genetical factor or the hereditary factor is just giving you a outline or the blueprint. So what you make out of it is completely in your hand. That means you are responsible for your health. So blaming on your bad genes or parents is a bad thing to do. So always take in responsibility, and of course you can reverse. Even if somebody is having all the chronic ailments, you can definitely get out of it. And whatever we talked, so keep yourself active, have a good frame of mind, eat right healthy food, and if you have a vulnerability, it doesn't mean that you must get it or you have to get it. there is a possibility. So those possibilities can be anytime, can be
Yeah,
turned off.
I'm the example for that because my mother, she had a major heart problem when she was in her 30s. So I always get worried about that. So what I do is a disciplined lifestyle. So what you need to do for that gene to not express in yourself, that's what is called as epigenetics, if I'm right. So you need to have a disciplined lifestyle, little bit awareness about what you're eating, and little bit of discipline in your exercises will take you a long way, and you can get rid of it. And for a fun fact, I did heart age test also. See, what I did was, it's there in Google, you can just Google it out, your heart age. So you can put all your details, whatever I put my details. It came younger than my age, my physical age, when I didn't put the hereditary. But when I put my hereditary, it's older than my age. So yes, the gene is there in me which can affect my heart. But again, the solution is also in your hands. So you need to be little dedicated to your health and your loved ones' health. Maulvi Jalaluddin Rumi said, your heart always shows the way, run in that direction. So literally you need to run. Wish you all the health and happiness on this Valentine's Day for yourself and your loved ones, and be good at heart. Thank you.
In today's scenario, when there is sort of anxiety and fear because of the virus, the people need something to calm down. That they need something that would help them to boost the immune system. See, if our immune system is strong, no virus can attack us. What are those few things we can do staying at home to boost our immune system? Yeah? The first thing that you can do is take care of your diet. Don't take too much sugar, or avoid white sugar totally. You know, just 1 teaspoon of white sugar has been found to reduce your immune system by half. I mean, 50% of your immune system gets down for next 2 hours. Just imagine if you keep feeding yourself with white sugar and white flour all day through, drinking tea or drinking this and that, your sugar level is increasing on one side and your immune system is going down on the other side. We can avoid all those foods which are not healthy, which doesn't support our immune system. Second thing is that attend to your breath. Do some breathing technique. One of the breathing exercise would be breathing out through the left nostril and then slowly breathing in to a count of 4 or 6 and holding it for the same amount, and then breathing out from the other nostril, from the right nostril. Breathe out for 6 to 8 counts, whichever is comfortable. You breathe in to 4 count, hold 4 count, and breathe out for 6 count, or if you can continue to up to 8 counts. Doing this Nadi Shodhan Pranayam for 5 minutes help you to recuperate, and it also helps to balance the right and left side of the brain. Yeah? So breathe out through the left and then breathe in to a count of 4 and hold 4 and then breathe out. Breathing out has to be slower than when you breathe in. This is one technique. After this alternative nostril, the second thing we'll do is we'll do the Bhastrika. Breathe in and breathe out with the same speed, with focus, attention on your belly. Keep your belly pulled in and breathe in and breathe out with force. And every time you breathe out, make sure you are keeping your navel pulled in. This form of Bhastrika will also help you to get over anxiety. Yeah? 3 rounds of Bhastrika. Relax. Then the third thing is you breathe through the nose, deep breath, and breathe out through the mouth. Slowly. Make sure you are in a clean atmosphere and you are not breathing out on somebody. Okay? Breathe in, long deep breath, and then breathing out through the mouth. This you can do 10 times. This will reduce the anxiety. Have you noticed whenever you are frustrated, you come out with this type of breathing. You say, oh my God. Oh, enough is enough. You breathe through the mouth to get rid of the stress which you cannot handle anymore. So this technique you can do for 10 times. Breathe in. Let's do it now. Breathe in through the nostrils. And then breathe out. There are 2 ways of doing. When you do yoga exercise, you breathe out fast. Breathe in and say, no, not that. Here in this pranayama, you breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth slowly also. We do with the same count. Suppose you breathe in for 2 counts. You breathe out for 3 counts. Breathe out slowly. This would help to calm down our mind. This would help to manage your anxiety and tension. You can do this lying down. Just lie down in Shavasana or in corpse pose. Breathe in and when you breathe out fully, stop there for a few seconds, even few seconds, consciously stop and then breathe in. This will help in all type of anxiety, the exam fear or performance anxiety, stock market anxiety, all type of anxiety and insomnia also. Suppose you can't go to sleep and you're lying down, you're twisting and turning, and at this time you can just relax your body and take a deep breath in, hold, and then breathe out through the mouth for a longer period. This will also help you to get over sleeplessness, insomnia. Even after jet lags, you can try this. It can energize you. The 4th technique that you can do, you can teach everybody at home, Bhramari. Bhramari is plugging your ears and the lips, nose, eyes, and gently plugging them and taking a deep breath in and then humming. Humming like a bee. Let's do this now. Let's. Mm. 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119 Five times this Brahmari. This will also relax your brain, relax your body and mind. Huh? Now, let's do meditation, okay? Eyes closed, body relaxed. Let's sit in a comfortable chair or on the floor with our spine erect and body relaxed. Make sure you are comfortable. And let's close our eyes. And become aware of our whole body. Let us recollect the weight of our body. Whatever it is, 60 kilos, 120 pounds, 150 pounds, whatever it is. Just remember the weight of your body. We came into this planet weighing just 8 pounds or 5 kilos. But today, we weigh much more. Let us place the weight of our body on the chair or on the floor we are sitting. Our body is the most precious gift to us from nature. Let us honor our own body. Let's take our attention to our legs. Relax our legs. Our knees, thighs, shoulders, arms, the thorax region, your head and face. Take your attention to the top of the head. Honor the whole body. This body of ours have billions and trillions of cells. And there is enormous energy in each cell of our body. Just let it be. Now let's become aware of our breath. Let's take our attention to the nostrils and observe the breath that's moving in and out. Let us notice the temperature of the breath, the volume of the breath. Now let's become aware of the air all around us and inside of us. Like fish in the water, we are in air. Let's honor our own breath. It is this breath that is keeping us alive. Let's move on to the third dimension, the mind. Our body is like the wick of a candle, mind is like the flame all around it. Whatever thoughts are coming in the mind, just let them come. Let's take our attention to the navel region, and we will now make the sound 3 times. Let's take a deep breath in. Another deep breath in. Again, let's breathe in and soak in the sound that we are making ourselves. Relax and let go. Let's take our attention to the chest region. Now we'll make the sound Om. Breathe in. Let's breathe in. Om. Om. Relax. Relax your mind. Keep your body still. Another deep breath in. Om. Let's take our attention to the head region. Now we are going to say the letter or the word Mum. Breathe in. Mum. Mum. Take your attention to your head region. We are going to say simply sound. Another deep breath in. And notice the sound percolating through the whole body. The sound impacting our whole body. Let's once again take a deep breath in. Now just relax and let go. Let go of all your efforts. This moment has nothing to do and nothing to know either. Just relax. Let go of all your efforts and simply relax more and more. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. You are peace. You are peace. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. Let's take a deep breath in and slowly breathe out and let go any traces of stress that may be still hanging. Another deep breath in. And as you breathe out, become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your eyes. So we have a number of such meditations. You can practice this meditation twice or thrice a day. Don't forget to use turmeric. Add turmeric in your diet. It'll be good to have turmeric. Nano turmeric is even better. And turmeric with just a little pepper. That will really safeguard you. It will boost your immune system. Also, it is antiviral. It has antibacterial properties. And then moringa leaves is good. We can also do this urja, which is the real powder form of moringa leaves. Moringa leaves are good to boost your immune system as well. Don't forget vitamin C, lemon juice, and plenty of fruits and vegetables. So, soon the world will get over this crisis that we are facing now. So, nothing to panic, but let us be cautious. Okay? All the best.